Marcus Blake had just come home from a business trip. He expected to walk into his multimillion-dollar mansion and find his family exactly how he'd left them, peaceful, under control. But what he found was nothing short of a nightmare. His son Caleb, who had been diagnosed with autism, was sitting on the floor, laughing, uncontrollably. Not at a toy, not at a TV show, but at Isabel, the maid. Isabel wasn't just cleaning. She was holding him, laughing with him, showing him something Marcus could never seem to reach. A bond that should have been his to make. And in that moment, his world shattered. The life of a billionaire often feels like one long parade of business meetings, financial negotiations, and jet-setting across the world. Marcus Blake, a man who had built his empire from the ground up, was no stranger to the cold, impersonal side of life. He prided himself on providing everything for his family. Everything, except his time. But there was always one thing Marcus struggled with: his son Caleb. Caleb, diagnosed with autism at the age of 3, had always been a challenge. There were no easy answers. No magical solution. Just endless hours of therapy, the best schools, and yet, Marcus never seemed to break through the wall Caleb had built around himself. The wall that had kept him emotionally distant. But Isabel, their maid, was different. She'd been with the family for years, quietly doing her job. Little did Marcus know, Isabel had spent hours with Caleb in ways he never could, gaining his trust, understanding him in ways that Marcus couldn't even begin to fathom. What Marcus didn't know, what he didn't understand, was that Isabel was giving Caleb the one thing he'd needed all along. The one thing no amount of money, power, or therapy could provide: real, unconditional connection. And as he stood frozen in the doorway, watching his son smile like he'd never smiled before, Marcus realized something that hit him harder than any boardroom deal ever could. He'd been too busy to notice. Too focused on building his empire to be present for his own son. He had allowed someone else to step in and fill the void he'd created. Can you imagine the guilt that came with that realization? The guilt of missing the most important moments of his child's life? If you're a parent, or if you've ever felt the weight of missed opportunities with the people you love, you know that gut-wrenching feeling. So before we dive deeper into Marcus's story, take a second and think about the people in your life who matter most. Do you truly see them? Or are you too caught up in everything else? If you can relate to Marcus's pain, then do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Stay with us until the end, because this story will change how you see the people around you. And trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Asterisk. Understanding autism is more than just understanding symptoms. It's about understanding the person beneath the diagnosis. Autism spectrum disorder, ASD, affects each individual differently, but there are common challenges, especially with communication and social interactions. For a child like Caleb, building trust and finding a way to communicate without overwhelming him is crucial. Many people think therapy or prescribed medications will fix everything. But the truth is, it's the connections we build with others that can truly make a difference. Isabel understood this, not because she had a degree in psychology, but because she took the time to see Caleb as a person, not just a diagnosis. She learned to meet him where he was, without rushing him, without trying to fix him. And sometimes, the most valuable lessons we can learn are not from textbooks, but from the people around us who see us for who we truly are. But what happens when a father, too busy to notice, finally opens his eyes and sees the connection that has been growing right under his nose? What happens when that same father has to face the guilt of his neglect, not just to his child, but to the person who stepped in and gave him what he needed? Marcus's journey is just beginning. But one thing is clear, there's no going back from this moment. Not for him. And not for Caleb. Stay with us as we uncover the story that will change everything Marcus thought he knew about fatherhood, about love, and about the true meaning of family. Just as Marcus was about to speak, just as he opened his mouth to ask the questions burning inside him, Isabel did something that completely stunned him. She took Caleb's hand, looked him in the eyes, and said something so simple, yet so profound, that it shook Marcus to his very core. Do you want to see the world, Caleb? Not through your father's eyes, but through your own. Caleb nodded, his eyes wide with wonder. And just like that, Marcus realized, the real journey was only just beginning. Don't go anywhere. The truth about what Isabel said, and the choice Marcus will have to make, is coming up next. Marcus didn't know what to say. How could he? The revelation was almost too much for his mind to process. The maid, Isabel, had done what he'd never been able to. She had connected with Caleb in a way that went beyond words. There was a bond, a trust between them, that had taken root long before Marcus ever walked through the door. And what was worse, he hadn't even noticed it happening. Isabel sat back, letting Caleb continue his play with the toys she'd set up for him. It was clear that this was more than just a playful moment, it was a breakthrough. A connection. Caleb, who had always been so withdrawn, was now fully engaged, not only in the toy but with Isabel. He wasn't just laughing at the toy car she had shown him, he was laughing with her. It was painful for Marcus to watch. His chest tightened, the guilt threatening to consume him. How many moments had he missed like this? How many simple joys had passed by without him ever noticing? Why didn't you tell me sooner? Marcus found his voice, his words coming out in a frustrated whisper. Why didn't you say something? Isabel stood up, calmly walking over to the window, her back turned to him. The silence hung thick in the air. She didn't need to explain herself. Marcus could see it in her eyes, the calm confidence that she had done something right. But it still stung. It hurt like nothing he had ever felt. I didn't want to hurt you, Isabel said quietly, her voice soft, yet filled with a quiet strength. But Caleb is different. He's not like other kids. He doesn't just need therapy and toys. He needs someone who sees him for who he is, not for what the doctors say he should be. Marcus didn't know how to respond. He had spent years providing for Caleb, spending countless hours organizing appointments, scheduling therapies, ensuring the best education. But none of that mattered if he wasn't there, truly there, when Caleb needed him the most. Isabel turned around, her eyes locking with his. There was no judgment in her gaze, only understanding. He needed to see that someone could accept him as he is. Not as a problem to be fixed, but as a person worthy of love. Marcus swallowed hard. The truth of her words hit him like a ton of bricks. All these years, he had been trying to fix Caleb, trying to make him normal, trying to give him a life that met his expectations. And in the process, he'd lost sight of Caleb's true needs. The emotional connection. The love. The simple human understanding that came from just being there, without the pressure of fixing. But it wasn't too late. Not yet. There was still time to change. Time to build that connection, to be the father Caleb deserved. Marcus wasn't sure how he could make it happen, but he knew one thing for sure, he couldn't keep living the way he had been. If you've ever felt like you've missed the most important moments in someone's life, like you were too caught up in your own world to notice the ones you love slipping away, then this story is for you. You're not alone in feeling this way. And if you can relate to Marcus, maybe now's the time to change too. But here's the thing, this isn't just about one man's journey. It's about all of us realizing that life is too short to let the important moments slip by. If you're moved by this story, if it's touching something deep inside of you, then I need you to take a moment and subscribe. Don't let another moment pass without taking action, because this story has only just begun. Over the next few weeks, Marcus found himself spending more time at home than ever before. He had canceled meetings, postponed conferences, and cut back on business trips. For the first time in years, he felt the weight of his absence in Caleb's life. Isabel, however, seemed to know exactly what to do. She had built a bond with Caleb that Marcus could never have anticipated. There was something about her patience, her gentleness, that worked magic on his son. Caleb was starting to open up in ways Marcus had never seen before. One afternoon, Marcus sat in the living room, watching the two of them interact. Isabel was kneeling on the floor, building a fort out of cushions, and Caleb was laughing, following her lead. It struck Marcus then, he was watching something beautiful. A relationship between a child and a caregiver that was grounded in trust and love. And it wasn't just the way Caleb had changed, it was the way Marcus had changed too. He wasn't perfect. He couldn't undo the years of missed moments. But now, at least, he was present. He was trying. He could hear Isabel's voice softly in the background as she encouraged Caleb to stack the pillows higher. "You're doing great, Caleb. Look at that tower. You're so strong." That was it. That was what Caleb needed. Not just someone to provide, but someone who believed in him. And then it hit Marcus like a freight train. He'd always been so focused on his career, his business, that he had never stopped to think about the human being in front of him. His own flesh and blood, his son, who was just trying to figure out how to be in a world that didn't understand him. Suddenly, Marcus felt an overwhelming sense of urgency. There was so much he needed to make up for. So much love and time he had to give Caleb. So much healing to be done. But it wasn't going to happen overnight. And Isabel. Isabel had done what he hadn't been able to. She had given Caleb something he could never have imagined: hope. If you've ever been too busy, too distracted, or too caught up in your own life to notice what's really important, then you're not alone. But it's never too late to make a change. You don't have to wait until it's too late to see what's been right in front of you all along. If this story resonates with you, if you see yourself in Marcus, then take this moment to subscribe. Let's start this journey of change together, because, like Marcus, we all have the power to shift the course of our own lives. Don't wait. Hit subscribe now and be part of the story. Marcus stood in the doorway of his son's bedroom late that night. Caleb had long since gone to bed, and the house was quiet, save for the occasional rustling of the trees outside. He thought back to his conversation with Isabel earlier in the day. "I don't know how I let it go this far," he had confessed to her, his voice heavy with regret. "You didn't see it, Marcus," Isabel had said softly. "You didn't know." But now he did. Now, everything was different. Now, he saw Caleb. He saw the bright little boy who was so full of life, so eager to connect, if only someone would take the time. As Marcus stood there, looking at Caleb's peaceful face, he realized just how much he had missed. The late-night meetings, the endless flights, the constant rush, it had all taken its toll. Now, he had to make a choice. A choice that would determine the future of his relationship with Caleb. Would he continue down the path of neglect, drowning in his own guilt, or would he finally make a commitment to his son, to be present, to be the father Caleb deserved? As Marcus stood there, staring down at his son, his phone buzzed. He glanced down, and his heart skipped a beat. The text was from Isabel. "Marcus, I need to talk to you. There's something important you need to know about Caleb. Something that could change everything." Marcus's heart raced. What could this be? What was Isabel about to reveal? Stay with us, because the truth about Caleb, and the devastating choice Marcus will have to make, will shock you. You won't believe what happens next. Absolutely. Let's continue with Chapter 5, keeping up the emotional intensity, guilt-tripping CTAs, and cliffhangers to maintain the viewer's engagement. The chapters will flow seamlessly from where we left off. Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. His mind raced as he stood in Caleb's room, staring at the message from Isabel. What could she possibly mean? What was it about Caleb that was going to change everything? His hands trembled as he typed a quick response, hoping that Isabel would shed some light on what was going on. His mind was a whirlwind of doubts and fears, but one thing was certain: he wasn't going to let whatever it was pass by without understanding it fully. The next few minutes felt like an eternity. His heart thumped loudly in his chest as he waited for her reply. And then, the phone buzzed again. "Marcus," the message began, "there's something about Caleb's condition that no one has told you. It's something you might not be ready for, but you need to hear it. Please, meet me in the kitchen in 10 minutes. The text sent a chill down Marcus's spine. What could Isabel be referring to? He had to find out. If you've ever had to face something you weren't ready to hear, something that rocked your world and made you question everything you thought you knew, then you understand how Marcus feels right now. We all go through moments of doubt, moments of fear, but sometimes, it's the hardest truths that lead us to the greatest changes. If you're with us on this journey, if you want to know what happens next, subscribe now. Don't let this story slip by. You're about to see something that will change the way you see everything. Marcus met Isabel in the kitchen, his nerves on edge. She looked different tonight. There was a heaviness in her posture, an air of quiet urgency that hadn't been there before. "Sit down," she instructed, her voice steady but carrying an unmistakable weight of concern. Marcus obeyed, feeling his heart hammering in his chest. Isabel was about to reveal something that he wasn't prepared for. He could feel it. He had been dreading this moment since he received the text, and now, it was finally here. Isabel looked at him for a long moment, her eyes searching his face as if deciding how much to say. "Marcus, you've been focused on treating Caleb's symptoms, his autism, the social difficulties, the communication struggles. But there's something more. Something that no one has told you about Caleb." "What do you mean?" Marcus asked, his voice thick with confusion. "Isn't that why we've been doing everything? The therapy, the special schools, the routines." Isabel shook her head, her eyes filled with sympathy. It's not just autism, Marcus. Caleb has something more, something deeper. And it's been there all along, affecting him in ways no one has seen. She took a deep breath. Caleb doesn't just have autism. He has a rare form of sensory processing disorder, a condition that makes him incredibly sensitive to his environment in ways you've never realized. The noise, the lights, the crowds, it overwhelms him, and that's why he shuts down. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Sensory processing disorder? He had never even considered that. His mind reeled, trying to process what Isabel was saying. And it's been getting worse, Isabel continued. But you never noticed. You were too busy with work. Too focused on being the perfect provider to realize that Caleb's world was falling apart, one sensory overload at a time. Marcus thought he had done everything he could for his son. He thought his money, his resources, his endless hours of work were enough. But in the end, it wasn't enough to see the deeper truth. If you're sitting here watching, maybe you've been blind to something too. Maybe you've been so focused on doing everything right that you haven't seen the people in your life, really seen them. Don't make the same mistake. If this story is touching something inside of you, if you feel like you need to make a change, then subscribe. This is the kind of story that changes everything. The weight of Isabel's words crashed down on Marcus like a tidal wave. Caleb wasn't just a child with autism. He had a condition that Marcus hadn't even heard of, one that made his world even more difficult to navigate. It wasn't just social interactions or communication, it was every moment of Caleb's life that had been colored by an invisible struggle. What do I do? Marcus asked, his voice hoarse, barely able to get the words out. How do I fix this? How do I fix him? Isabel's expression softened. You can't fix him, Marcus. You don't need to. He's not broken. He just needs to be understood. And that means being there for him, without the pressure, without the expectations. Marcus leaned back in his chair, trying to process everything. His whole world felt like it had been turned upside down in the span of a few minutes. Caleb wasn't broken. He didn't need to be fixed. He needed to be seen. But I've missed so much, Marcus whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I've been so busy. I didn't know. You can't change the past, Isabel said gently, but you can change the future. It starts now. You need to be the father Caleb needs, not the one you think he needs. Marcus has spent years thinking that he had to fix his son. He thought his way was the only way. But the truth? The truth is so much deeper, so much more powerful. If this story is speaking to you, if you've ever been in Marcus's shoes, too busy, too distracted to truly see the people you love, then now is the time to change. Don't let another moment slip by. Subscribe and be part of this journey with us. This isn't just Marcus's story, it's all of us. Don't miss out on the next chapter of this life-changing journey. The next few weeks were a blur. Marcus spent every moment he could with Caleb, trying to understand his son in ways he never had before. He canceled meetings, pushed back projects, and focused entirely on Caleb, on being present, on seeing him. But it wasn't easy. There were moments of frustration, moments when Caleb would shut down and withdraw. There were still times when Marcus didn't know how to handle it. But one thing was clear, he was there, in a way he never had been before. And with every passing day, their bond grew stronger. But as Marcus began to see the changes in Caleb, as he started to understand him on a deeper level, something unexpected happened. Caleb began to trust him more. The walls he had built around himself started to crumble, little by little. And with every breakthrough, Marcus couldn't help but think of Isabel. Without her, Caleb would still be trapped in his own world, and Marcus would still be lost in his own. One evening, as Marcus was helping Caleb with his favorite puzzle, his phone buzzed with a text from Isabel. Marcus, I need to tell you something. Something that might change everything you've been working toward with Caleb. Please, call me when you get this. Marcus's heart skipped a beat. What could it be? What more could there possibly be to know? Stay tuned, because the truth Isabel is about to reveal will shake Marcus, and you to the core. This isn't the end. It's only the beginning. The weeks had flown by, and while Marcus had made great strides in rebuilding his relationship with Caleb, something still gnawed at him. There was a constant undercurrent of uncertainty, something he hadn't been told, something that still lay hidden in the depths of Caleb's condition. It was late one night when Marcus finally decided to call Isabel. The text she had sent him still echoed in his mind, and now, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change again. He picked up the phone, dialing her number with a sense of urgency. As it rang, his thoughts raced. What could she possibly need to tell him that would change everything? Hadn't he already learned so much? The phone clicked, and Isabel's voice came through, calm but distant. "Marcus, you called." "I got your message," Marcus replied, his voice thick with anticipation. "What is it? What more is there to know about Caleb?" There was a long pause, and for a moment, Marcus wondered if she would even answer. Finally she spoke, her voice steady but filled with an emotion that Marcus hadn't heard from her before. "Marcus, what I'm about to tell you might shatter everything you've believed about your son's future," Isabel began. "And I don't know if you're ready for this, but you have to hear it. Caleb is capable of so much more than anyone has ever believed. But it's not just about his autism. It's about his potential, his strength, and the world has been holding him back." Marcus' breath caught in his throat. "What do you mean? You're telling me that he—" "No, Marcus. I'm saying that Caleb has an incredible gift. A talent, a skill, something far beyond what anyone has recognized. But it's been buried under the weight of everyone's expectations. No one ever gave him the chance to show it. Not the doctors. Not the therapists. And not you. Not even me, until now." Marcus felt his world tilt. His heart pounded in his chest as he tried to grasp the meaning of her words. His son wasn't just battling autism. He had potential, a potential that had never been unlocked, a talent that had been stifled by a system that didn't understand him. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Marcus's voice cracked, filled with guilt and desperation. "I didn't know how to tell you, Marcus," Isabel's voice softened. "You've been so focused on fixing him, you never let him just be." Marcus closed his eyes, the weight of her words sinking in. He had spent so much time trying to fix Caleb that he had never once stopped to think about the amazing things Caleb could do, if only someone would take the time to see him for who he truly was. What Marcus just realized is something that many of us have been blind to. We spend our lives trying to fix what we think is broken, without ever seeing the incredible potential lying right in front of us. We ignore the quiet voices, the unnoticed talents, and we focus on the wrong things. If you've ever felt like you missed something important in your life, like you've been too focused on fixing things instead of appreciating them for what they are, then now is your time to make a change. Don't let another moment go by without truly seeing the people in your life. If this story has opened your eyes, if it has touched you in any way, then you can't afford to miss what happens next. Subscribe now because this journey is far from over. If you don't, I'm telling you, you'll regret it. Don't be like Marcus. Don't miss the chance to change your life before it's too late. The next morning, Marcus watched as Caleb played in the living room, absorbed in a drawing he had been working on for hours. Isabel had helped Caleb tap into a creative side he'd never known existed. She'd given him the confidence to express himself, to show the world what he could do. Marcus had always thought Caleb's world was limited to puzzles and repetitive activities, but this was something new. Something beautiful. Caleb was creating. And for the first time, Marcus could see the person Caleb was becoming. As he watched his son, Marcus knew one thing for sure: this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. He had made mistakes. He had missed out on so many moments, so many opportunities to be there for Caleb. But the one thing Marcus had learned from Isabel's patience, from Caleb's quiet strength, was that it was never too late to change, to rebuild, to see. For the first time, Marcus truly understood what it meant to be a father. It wasn't about providing everything. It wasn't about being the best at everything. It was about being present. And that was something he could do. Something he could give. We all have moments in our lives where we feel like we've failed, like we've missed our chance. But I want you to know, you haven't missed it. It's never too late to start again. To see the people in your life for who they really are, and to open your heart to the possibility of change. If you feel moved by Marcus's journey, if you feel that spark inside you, that urge to change your own story, then don't let this moment slip by. Subscribe now. This is your opportunity to be part of something bigger than just this story. This is your chance to change the way you see the world, and the people you love. Don't wait another second. Subscribe now, because if you don't, you might just miss the chance to make your life everything it could be. Marcus stood in the doorway, watching Caleb laugh and play with Isabel. The room felt different now, lighter, filled with possibility. He had made a decision, one that would change everything for their family. But there was one thing still lingering in his mind. One question that would haunt him until he finally got the answers he needed. Isabel had always known more about Caleb than he did. But what was it that Isabel hadn't told him? What was the next step in Caleb's journey? And would Marcus be ready to walk alongside him when the next challenge came? As Caleb looked up and smiled at his father, Marcus felt something inside of him stir, a promise, a hope, and a deep understanding that they were only just getting started. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will definitely enjoy the one I will be dropping tomorrow. Please like and subscribe so you won't miss out.